Welcome to the Cosmic Scavenger Hunt. I'm your guide, Maureen McGonegle. This is the first episode in an experiment, a hybrid video and audio podcast that will explore the purpose of this human experience, how we can expand and inhabit more of our consciousness, how we can connect with the magic that is all around us and learn to navigate our lives with more ease and wonder and joy, even with the hard stuff. My intention for this journey is to share stories, framework, transmissions, tips, clues on the scavenger hunt to help you navigate your own unique way through this human experience. You're not here by accident. If you click play on this, your soul is telling you something. Do you have a sense that you're here on a mission, or that there's some bigger purpose to your life? You may not have yet found it. Do you notice that the way that you were living no longer fits right? Do you notice that you're wanting to connect with people on a deeper level and, more importantly, with yourself? Well, then you're in the right place. I'm Maureen, your multidimensional guide, a cosmic doula on the scavenger hunt, leading you home to the truth of who you are, the most authentic expression of your soul's unique blueprint. Part of my mission is to share what I've learned to help others navigate the scavenger hunt. I've been getting clues about starting a podcast for a long time. I started on YouTube, and the thing that I wanted to create was something I hadn't ever seen before. And that's a hybrid podcast that sometimes has video and sometimes doesn't. Because sometimes, you just want to capture something quickly on audio. Everything will live on YouTube as well as the podcast platforms, and they'll point to each other. Cosmic Scavenger Hunt is a concept that came to me a few years ago, and it's based on my belief system. So take what resonates and always trust your intuitive knowing of what's right for you. What I've come to understand is that we are fragments of source, of the universe, of God, whatever you choose to identify with. And before physical incarnation, we were unified with source. In that form, source cannot experience itself. So source decided to fragment into different souls and then follow that down into a soul having many different incarnations. Then you follow that down into the current human experience, human lifetime that we're having. We incarnate across many, many lifetimes to explore our soul's unique blueprint, your gifts, your traits, and your frequency and your energy. There is a true blueprint that exists within you. So if we want to learn about some aspect of ourselves, what happens in the human experience is we forget that we came from source. We forget that we are source. We think we are these separate individual beings. We forget on purpose. And part of the journey back to ourselves is remembering. That's when things really go from feeling like life is happening to you, that you're a victim of your circumstances, looking externally to understand why things are happening, to really understanding that everything that's happening is actually for us to heal some part of ourselves, to bring back in the fragments that have been lost through programming and through trauma and all different life circumstances that have us forgetting who we actually are. And by following that trail of clues, we find ourselves again. And this is when life starts becoming really, really interesting. The path of doing that is very interesting. And that's what we're going to explore in this podcast. So think of it like a scavenger hunt or a treasure hunt. And you're following all of these clues. So these can be things like synchronicities, like multiple people tell you about the same podcast within a short period of time. And it feels completely random, but it's not. Being symbols or having animal encounters. You might also get messages in your dreams and meditations and shamanic journeys. There's all kinds of different ways that we receive clues. These have actually been planted by you, by your higher self, by your I am, by your future self to help guide you home to the truth of who you are. It's so cool. It's giving us access to our multi-dimensional selves. We are not just this human existence. There's so much more that exists And when we start living life this way and following the clues on the scavenger hunt, things become a little bit more magical. It just feels like the way it's meant to be. And then a really important piece that often gets missed and is part of my medicine, my magic in this incarnation, is helping you interpret the clues through a clean lens. Because often if you're still looping on some programming that's not actually yours, so let's say you picked up a story in childhood that you're not good enough, then you could get a clue that looks like your soul is telling you to go one direction, but really it's just reinforcing that old belief. This is where you end up stuck in these loops. I was a master at karmic relationships, romantic relationships, friendships that would just reinforce beliefs about myself. And I would stay in them because I thought that this time it'll be different, this time it'll change. It was just causing more and more suffering. So especially this year, I've really been dedicated to looking at myself with as clear a lens as possible, looking at the shadows, calling myself on my own bullshit to really see where does liberation exist. So interpreting the clues is important because otherwise you can just end up off on a side quest. And you know what? Even on side quests, you learn something. Perhaps there's a little bit more to that loop, to that lesson that needs to be learned. And I don't see it as going around in circles. This is a spiral, and we're usually spiraling up if we're conscious and aware of what we're doing. So even if it looks like the same thing, if you looked at it from above, it would look like a flat circle and you're going round in circles. But if you look at it from the side, you're actually at a different vantage point, and you've picked up lessons along the way that can help you learn the next bit of that lesson. A big part of what I teach people is how to tell the difference between your head or your fear and your heart and your truth, and really finely tuning your own internal guidance system, your own yes and your own no. The truth is that a lot of us are born into families or life circumstances or world circumstances that are quite traumatic and create a lot of suffering. And I have so much compassion for that. I have lived that myself. My childhood was very tumultuous. It created a lot of wounding, a lot of karma that I was working through. I got to a breaking point where the suffering got so great. I had a dark night of the soul where I started to question everything and realized that I didn't even know who I was. I had put on all of these masks, who I was meant to be as a friend, who I was meant to be as a wife, as a mother, as an employee, as a daughter. And I dutifully put these masks on because I so desperately wanted to fit in and to be loved. I started to notice, I'm not sure that this life that I created based on the identity of Maureen is giving me what I thought it would. The peace and the love and the happiness. And I actually feel empty inside. I was cycling in and out of depression and anxiety and burnout. And one day it just came to me, there has to be more than this. I started to recover parts of myself and understand myself better and realize I don't want to work in corporate anymore. All of the major parts of my life didn't fit, and I didn't yet know who I was. So I was in this void, the liminal space of you can't go back and you're not yet sure what forward is. And it was such a powerful time of transformation. And over the next now almost 6 years, I've been following the scavenger hunt to unwind the parts of my life that didn't match who I actually was and start to create things that feel much more aligned with who I am. And to no longer feel like I have to be one version of myself with my children and one version with my friends or in spiritual spaces. I've brought all those things into alignment, into coherence. The amount of ease and energy reclamation that comes along with that, along with joy and play, that's what the scavenger hunt has done for me. The scavenger hunt led me to founding Earth Sky Activation at the beginning of this year. I'm here to guide you, to spark remembrance, to activate something within you. And I always point you back to yourself. And that's what this podcast is about as well. I know that you found this for a reason. One of the things I'm most excited about is really helping people interpret the clues that they're receiving. And that's a lot of what we'll be exploring in the podcast. Is I'll share a lot of my own personal stories, things that I'm seeing with my clients. I work with lots of different modalities. To me, all the different ways that we receive clues are actually just different on-ramps to the same highway of consciousness. There's no right or wrong way. I'll share as much as I can about my own way of navigating. I would love for this to be a dialogue and a co-creation. A lot of the people who are drawn to work with me have a sense that they're here on a mission. This may be you. You may not know what it is. And when I say a mission, I don't mean everybody needs to be a light worker or a healer or a Reiki practitioner or anything like that. In order for humanity to actually evolve to the next level of our evolution, I share a lot more about this in the Great Transition episodes, which on YouTube were actually recorded before this one. So again, it's the Scavenger Hunt. If you're on YouTube, go back and watch them to get a lot more context about what's happening with humanity at this time and why this is so important. So if you have a sense that you're here on a mission, this could be just about the way that you walk through the world, the light that you emit, the frequency of possibility. This is a big thing that I'm noticing. As we transition to fourth density, and again, go watch or listen to those Great Transition episodes for more context on this. As we transition, we have access to a version of ourselves that is much closer to remembering what it is to actually be part of Source and the infinite possibility that exists. And these are things that can feel theoretical on the human level, but you have an embodied knowing of the truth of them when you go through the transition in consciousness. This is something that I am guiding people through. And what I've experienced is that just me living in radical sovereignty, this can look quite extreme to some people, the way that I live. I don't adhere to a lot of social norms anymore, which is wild because I used to be the biggest rule follower, a people pleaser, and now I'm a single mom who makes her own hours, works with who she wants to work with. I don't do small talk. I don't drink. I don't even drink coffee. A lot of things that I've found on the scavenger hunt aren't in alignment with who I actually am. Those things can be triggering to people, but what I find is the flip side of the trigger is it's an activation. It's an activation of a remembrance that, yes, it is possible to live this life in alignment with who you actually are. You don't need to be beholden to a mortgage or to what other people think you should do, who your family thinks you are. This can be quite radical. And the freedom that comes with living this way, especially if you feel like you have been at the whim of other people's desires, if you've been in any kind of toxic relationships or work environments, to be honest, living at the current stage of humanity is like a toxic environment. So if your soul is telling you there's a different way to live, there's a different way to experience this life, maybe I don't buy into a lot of the rhetoric that I see. I don't watch the news because I saw during COVID how much it was just stoking fear for me. And when I extracted myself from that environment, my whole nervous system calmed down. And it actually helped me see how long I had been living in fight or flight, how long my nervous system had been dysregulated. And I've been on such a journey of reclamation for the last 6 years to bring myself into a regulated nervous system, into a sense of safety, into what I call the sanctuary that I built within me, because I used to constantly seek external validation and relationships to hopefully make me feel whole, and it never worked. Living your life in full authenticity with your blueprint, the energy and the light that emanates from you, that might mean that you're meant to be an artist, or you might work at the pizza shop, or you might be a teacher. You're living in true authenticity changes people. It changes their view of what's possible. And that's a big part of my mission, is to spark that remembrance so that they can start living this way. And this is how we will transform humanity. The more of us who are living this way, it ripples out to those around us, and it really shifts things. I've seen it time and time again, and I've lived it. Everything I share is from embodied, lived experience. This is not theory. This is not something I've read in a book. This is something I've experienced, and then I validate with my clients and my friends, and by telling stories and have others share back. That really resonates for me. The Great Transition episodes are a framework that came through various channels, both channeled by Lisa Royal Holt and myself. And then as I started sharing them with my clients and with my friends, I got this massive feedback loop that validated the lessons that were coming through. These are mystery schools that have been taught on Earth for thousands of years and on other planets. I have a very strong galactic connection. And even if part of you goes, I'm not sure I believe in those things, I encourage you to bring a level of curiosity. And again, take what resonates, take what feels true to you. I want to empower you to really tune into your own knowing of your own truth. My interpretation is going to be different than yours. That's the reason why interpreting these clues the right way is so important. When I work with people as a guide, my intention and my devotional practice is that I clear my channel as much as I can so that I am a clear conduit for your higher self to speak to you. And I'm on a mission to clear as much density and distortion from the field as possible. So that's what I intend to do in this space. For a real life example of the Cosmic Scavenger Hunt that's a bit meta, it's how this podcast came to be in its current form. I had started a YouTube channel a few years ago, and I was still in cycles of burnout and living from a lot of karmic loops. And I started it and couldn't sustain. And then earlier this year, when I started Earth Sky Activation, I again was getting the message to share more. And I just felt like I hadn't quite landed how to share. And then a few months ago, when the transition transmissions came through, I just got such clear guidance that this has to be out there. This has to be shared with humanity. And a lot of other people are getting very similar channelings, messagings, which I think is good validation that we are being guided through this transition. This is not about someone owning this information. This is for all of humanity. And so I was getting a lot of guidance from my guides, from my higher self, that now's the time you need a podcast. And I was thinking a YouTube channel. So this is where I slightly misinterpreted. I was getting a bit fixed on it. I want it to be a YouTube thing, but gosh, to be honest, to film and edit and share YouTube videos actually takes quite a bit of time. And I'm also trying to run and build a business as a single mom, mostly during school hours. And I'm trying not to burn out again. This is my soul-led business. I don't want to do it the way that I've done it before. I had this vision of what I wanted it to be, and then the reality of time and energy. And then I was at my daughter's holiday choir concert, and there was a guy who was emceeing. And because there was like a torrential downpour, there was a pause in the performance. He just started talking about who he was, and I had never heard of him before. I guess he's a well-known radio personality here in Australia. I hadn't heard of him because I don't really listen to the radio. And he had this cool little caravan that he had kitted out, and it said the Podvan on the side. And something kind of caught my interest. And then when he was talking, he was like, oh, I produce podcasts. And it had never dawned on me to hire someone to produce my podcast. That felt like overkill. It felt like I'm just doing this on my own. I should be able to do this on my own. But then I realized this man has some clues for me. So as I'm standing there in the rain, I went and booked in just to have a chat with him. That chat turned into a long discussion. Shout out to Rabs. He was an absolute legend. Not only did he give me so many clues, tips, guidance, we connected on this soul level, even though his mission is very different to mine. And we just connected on this level of two people who know that they have a purpose here. And by the end of our discussion, I realized, oh my gosh, what a gift this would be to myself to hire him to help me launch this podcast. I don't know anything about the platforms. And then we riffed on what it could look like and what the structure would look like. And by the time we got off the phone, I was like, oh my gosh, this is how it's going to happen. So my guides had given me guidance. You need to start a podcast. I had gotten stuck on the YouTube piece. And then all of these clues on the scavenger hunt led me to actually hiring a podcast producer, which is pretty cool. Like, I feel like I'm also just being so supported to get these messages out there. Birds are confirming. I feel like I'm being divinely guided and supported to share these messages. And so I hope you'll join me as we explore the magic of the Cosmic Scavenger Hunt here on YouTube and also wherever you get your podcasts. Please, if this resonates, comment, subscribe, like, share it with other people who might find it interesting. And if you haven't watched the Great Transition episodes, I encourage you to go back and watch those so you get a better sense of why this is such an important time in the history of humanity and why living life on the Cosmic Scavenger Hunt will help you navigate the massive change that we're experiencing with much more joy, love, ease, and wonder. I have a really strong sense that I'm being guided and supported in this way because these messages are meant to reach people. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, I'm Maureen. Happy scavenger hunting.